All right, we're back. Segment two of the Mastering the Franchise Sales Funnel series. We're talking about lead generation. The ugly subject doesn't have to be that bad. Stick around.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, welcome back. We are talking about learning proven strategies, actionable insights that'll boost your conversion rates overall. And today, we're talking about, first of all, we're talking about closing deals, all the way from start to finish sales funnel, lead generation, all the way to closing deals. And today we are talking about lead generation. We're going to dive in. So a couple of overall things I'm going to break down for those of you who are brokers. I'm going to give you things that work really well for brokers, probably not as well for the brands themselves. And then I'm going to flip it. There's a couple of things that I think work really, really well for brands, may or may not really work for brokers. So there'll be some overlap. You can try things on both ends. There's commonality there, but I think there are unique ones better for brokers than for brands and vice versa. So let's talk in general, starting on this topic of lead generation. I want you to realize, again, particularly the brokers, I want you to realize that there's two kinds of investments. You have the normal, the natural investment of money, putting dollars out for lead generation, for marketing. But there's also something that we often fail to recognize. I teach this a lot nowadays, and again, particularly for your solo broker consultant, you have time. If you're really good at this, you're really busy, you're spending a lot of hours, with qualified candidates. Yeah, you don't have as much time. But honestly, from what I see in the industry, most of you have time. And if you value your time, I've always been taught now, ever since I've been an entrepreneur and business owner for going on close to 25 years, I've always looked at time as an investment. I can't get it back once it's gone. I have never figured out a way. I can't add a single minute to any given day. So time is like an asset. It's like an investment. So use it wisely. Again, always nowadays, the last 20 some years, I always speak about my time from the perspective of investing it and not spending it. So recognize, as you create lead generation plans, and I encourage you to do that. Just don't willy-nilly go out there, I got to generate some leads this week, or I better pick up my pace on finding some people to sell to. You want to have a deliberate plan. If you're measuring your KPIs, you're tracking your numbers, again, whole nother subject we're not going to be able to get into today. But if you're doing that, then you know your conversion rates. And if you know your conversion rates and you know about what you get paid for a placement or a sale, if you're the brand rep, then you can very deliberately go and say, if you need 52 leads a month to make a sale a month, then you can recognize and plan, how am I going to get these 52 leads? If it's 116, again, if you know your numbers, you can plan on how to get that number of leads in order to make the sale. If you want to make a sale every quarter, again, you can do the math, but it's key to plan how many leads you feel you need to make the kind of money that you want to make. So investment is both money and time. Now, a couple of things that I think are important that can be applicable to both broker consultants as well as the brand development reps. Again, I'm going to break out a bunch separately, but overall, and I'm sure there are more, but I know there are 13, a minimum of 13 strategies that work, and they're in the FSA course and available, and they're taught. We're not going to go through all of them. I am going to highlight a fair amount of them. And again, I'm going to show you which ones fit better probably for the brokers than they do for the Fran Dev reps and vice versa. But the thing about two key things about lead generation. One is you've got to constantly be prospecting. What we find is that when people's sales are off, we obviously see the number of leads down, but the reason the number of leads are down is that they've fallen short or they've stopped or they've hiccuped from the standpoint of prospecting. There's a great book out there by Jeb Blount on prospecting. Go get it. It's awesome. The next thing that I teach that's very important because I've seen it done so poorly in the franchise broker and the franchise sales arena, and that is people don't get consistent and never get proficient at this thing we call lead generation. It doesn't take, like 10 or 15 different strategies and hundreds of thousands of dollars necessarily, depending on the size of your franchise. But for the most part, what's lacking, particularly again in the broker side of this transaction, the broker side of lead generation, they don't stick with anything enough to get consistent and proficient. So I see a huge gap in where they try something that doesn't work and they stop. They don't try to figure out why it didn't work. They've heard it work, and odds are very, very probable it does work, but they just haven't been consistently putting forth the effort in that area. Again, as a broker, as a consultant, ultimately you want probably 3 different solid, consistently operating lead generation strategies that operate simultaneously, and those 3 will always give you the amount of leads that you need to make the amount of money that you want to make. So big things, there are at least 13 different sales strategies, lead generation strategies. Get consistent, get proficient, and be consistent with your prospecting. Okay, so now specifics on lead generation. What kind of strategies are out there? What's working in the space? And this can shift sometimes over the course of time, but for the most part, a lot of these have been working for a very long time. So let's start with you brokers. Let's start with you consultants. One thing is that you need to leverage your personal brand in order to build trust in the marketplace and to build trust with your candidates and to build trust with the multiple brands that you represent. As I often say, this is a relationship business. So you need to build that brand and that personal relationship with your candidates as well as with your brand representatives. The next big thing, again, this is missed across the board, and that is not brokers don't get local enough. And I teach and I encourage you to become the franchise guy, become the franchise gal in your area. I am pretty much that today in my area. I get referrals of all kinds of types of things. And they're not always what I want to do, or they're not always what I do. But again, I've created this persona, and I've created this image and visibility that people come to me locally when they have questions or issues about franchising overall. So from the standpoint of sales, again, I'm telling you, you are missing out on leads and you are missing out on placements if you don't get local. And some of that local nature can be part of something like joining a chamber of commerce. I'm a big supporter of local chambers of commerce because they do good for their communities. You can also go to or join networking groups. Again, these are single the groups that have a single person per profession. The groups are typically 30 to 35 people, and they're eyes and ears out there in the community. We can teach how to get the most out of a networking group. I've had consultants say, "Yeah, I kind of got my money back, but after a year or so, I quit." Well, I can teach how to get up to speed quickly, how to get return on your investments in 3 to 6 months, not in a year or never. But you need to know how to use those groups. But again, a way to enhance your localness, you're becoming the local franchise go-to person, is through your networking groups. And certainly that's a great way to generate leads. Another one is LinkedIn. Boy, so many people I hear are really not using LinkedIn, or they say, "Well, I've got hundreds of contacts there, but I just really don't know much about it." Well, I'm telling you, there is a treasure trove of information about your prospects, and they give it to you. I've been a very strong sales and marketing background, and honestly, the information that people just put out there today on LinkedIn, we used to kill for that kind of information. So what you want to do though on LinkedIn is don't sell. Don't, it's not there for that, particularly when you're initially connecting with people. I delete connection requests when there's a sales pitch in there. Drives me nuts. I delete them. And sometimes I scold the people. So LinkedIn is huge for you as individual brokers. Probably not as much for your direct friend dev reps. You can, but I haven't quite really seen it quite as effective because you've got a single brand and you've got to get really, really, really narrowly focused and niched from the standpoint of the classic connections and developing relationships. There's other ways for the for the direct brands to use LinkedIn, probably more with LinkedIn ads. But now I'm talking about the specifics about LinkedIn and the connection strategies and developing that. So here's how it works: you connect first, then develop a sequence of creating value and interest, and be of interest, and be an interesting person, and give value, give knowledge. Develop a relationship, and then in with some of the candidates, some of the connections, you can move that connection to more of a conversation about what you do. Again, this is a better strategy for you brokers than it might be for direct brands. Let's say you're new in the industry. I teach and I encourage you, if you're new, as in, probably less than 6 months, definitely less than 90 days, do a launch, a new business launch event. The insurance industry has been fantastic at this. They tell every new insurance rep, go to your friends and all your friends and families and sell them a life insurance policy. Well, I know people that have done that and aren't welcome back at Thanksgiving dinner anymore. But very differently in our business, what I'm saying is, don't try to sell your friends and family a franchise or try to convince them they should buy a business. What you're trying to do really with the friends and family launch is to let people know who know you and care about you, people who probably want to help you. Let them know what your new business is. Let them know what you're doing. And in this way, they can actually go out and see and hear and refer business to you. So you want to do this with friends and family for the referral opportunities, because these are folks that typically will want to help you. Also, it's easy to do with friends and family. You're not worried about messing up or fumbling through your words or whatever. It's just easy to do, but it's something very, very important to do early on in changing into this profession. Another thing that I think is really, really important is simply to tell everybody that you know what you do. Thank you, Tom Waite, my first sales manager who left the corporate world after I did. And started his own business, and this was one of the first and smartest things he's ever told me. Again, if you've changed professions, you're doing something new, let people know. Anybody that'll give you 1 to 3 minutes, I hate to say that old elevator speech, but get smooth at talking about what you do, and the ability to tell people in a short period of time who you are and what you're doing now. So tell everyone that everyone that will talk to you, tell them what you do. Another thing is going to be align with other professions. Again, this is something that if you've got a single brand, I mean, it's really, really tough to do this if you're a brand development rep. But you as brokers, you as consultants, you can align with professions because you have a broader approach. And what I say is follow the money. Who knows what types of professions know about people's careers and people's finances, people's money? So accountants, attorneys, particularly like estate planning attorneys, financial planners, anybody in the insurance space, insurance field, insurance agents. So align with these professions because these are people that if they understand the value that you bring to their clients, these are going to be terrific referral sources for you. And then again, for brokers, again, I have seen direct brands use this strategy, but the last one I just wanted to highlight before I transition into talking to you franchise development reps, the last one is purchase leads or portal leads. There was a time, maybe 15 or 20 years ago when that's all brokers did. I know some broker consultants today that still do that. However, it's gotten a lot more expensive because the quality of the lead is low, much lower than it ever was. So you're having to buy more of those leads to find the needle in the haystack, to find the buyers in the noise and in the chaos and in all the volume. So it's much less reliable than it's ever been. And it's an expensive source, but it's okay. Again, honestly, it works. I know one of the top franchise brokers in the industry, $1 million plus performer, that at one stage before I did some work with him, he was solely dependent on about 5 or 6 portal companies. He felt very uncomfortable about that. And indeed, that's why he was working with me for a few months. So we introduced LinkedIn and social media and some other lead generation sources. But portal or purchase leads work. You've just got to recognize it's expensive and you've got churn. And you might even want to outsource that high volume churn and contacting. All right, let's transition to, as we wrap up here, let's transition to lead generation as your franchise development rep. Some of these things we've just shared might work. I don't think they'll often work as well as they do for brokers, but there are 2 or 3 that really, really work well for you as a franchise development rep. One is going to be, yep, you guessed it, referrals from portal or from brokers, referrals from brokers. So if your company, if you work for a large company, hopefully they're in several of the organizations. So put the effort through to create the relationships with the brokers so that you'll sell more of your unique or specific brand. If you are a franchise, an emerging brand type franchise, a franchisor where as the founder, as the owner, your hand is still in a lot of this, consider joining at least one broker organization because it is a high quality candidate. But recognize if you're new to going into broker organizations, recognize you need to work it. I've seen too many emerging brands people, pay a membership fee or some kind of a registration fee to get started, and then they just sit back and they go, "Oh wow, I'm not hearing anything," or "Oh wow, I get some territory checks," which at the beginning that's exciting, but if they don't turn in, they won't turn into leads. They won't turn into actual referrals to your brands if you don't build relationships, if you don't work the organization. So, but if you're, again, new to franchising, an emerging brand, go ahead and get into a broker organization. Just recognize it's going to take that time investment on your part. But I would say the best converting lead generation source that I ever had as a master or as a franchisor was my relationships with the broker organizations. When I was a master franchisee, my conversion rate was in the low to mid teens over the course of 15 years. As a CEO, I and my sales team were closing like 25 to 27%. It was huge. So now another one is your website. Now, if your website's not producing leads for you for franchise sales, for franchise placements, then shame on you. You need to get a new marketing person. But this, I have always found that my website of my clients, my private clients that we work with, their website was a delivered consistent volume and great quality. So I would say it was the number two converting strategy. So if it's not providing you leads or not providing you good leads, then you need to look at why not, because it should be. And then the last one I'm just going to mention overall for franchisors is really going to be LinkedIn ads, because again, your candidates are absolutely there. You just need to approach them in a different way, and probably Google AdWords. I'm not seeing Facebook as much anymore. Again, it's possible that your candidates are there, but I think Google AdWords and LinkedIn ads have been producing better for franchisors and franchise development reps.